Hey, welcome back to New Day Northwest. Earlier in the show, we were talking about cycling in Seattle, and our next guest is probably one of the biggest fans of cycling and bicycles in our city. Tom Fucoloro is the founder of the Seattle Bike Blog, and as of today, he is out with a new book called Biking Uphill in the Rain, the story of Seattle from behind the handlebars. Tom joins me now. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, that title is amazing. It is amazing. So you started the Bike Blog in 2010. What led you to writing this book?
Well, the University of Washington Press reached out and said, do you want to write a book about Seattle and bicycling? And I thought, well, that sounds like a lot of work, and for not a lot of pay, I'm in. So
yes. So the answer is naturally yes.
Yes.
Seattle was recently named the best bike city in the United States by Bicycling Magazine. We're notoriously known for our hills, wet weather, car-centric infrastructure. So my question is, what makes this a great area for bicycling?
I mean, in a lot of ways, all those things.
Yeah.
The same things about hills that make it, a challenge. You have to bike up them is, well, everything that goes up must come down.
That's true, yeah.
And you get to the top of the hill and, you worked, and then you see this amazing view in front of you, and you get to just cruise all the way down the hill, and it's amazing. It's one of the best experiences I think a person can have.
I've never lived in a city so cycle-centric. A lot of places you would think like Los Angeles. You would imagine it's got great weather all the time. People be on the bike. No, actually, it's a very car-centered society, and that's kind of an issue. Let's talk about the animosity between drivers and cyclists, the drama over bike lanes. I know a lot of folks, sometimes as a driver, I'll be behind a bicyclist and I'll be like, are they even paying attention? Because I am the person who gives the wide berth, because, I've seen the things. So what do you think that animosity comes from?
I actually think that there's a lot less animosity now than there was when I first started the blog, in 2010. I think there's a lot more people who bike now.
Yeah.
And, as more people know someone, have a close friend or family member who bikes, it really chills out any urge they have to be hostile and to honk. I used to get honked at all the time.
Really?
I almost never get honked at anymore.
People honk here?
I know, it's really rare.
That's
it's
so
rare, but it
weird.
happens.
No one will honk at you. You can sit at a red light for 5 minutes, no one will honk at you. But apparently, they'll honk at a cyclist. No, but it's a good point because, a friend of mine's husband is an avid cycler. So whenever I see a cycler, I'm like, oh, that's somebody's dad probably.
Yeah,
or somebody's mama.
Exactly.
Tell us about some of the examples of community-led bike initiatives that you've gone through, like Burke-Gilman Trail. That is nationwide famous.
Yeah. The Burke-Gilman Trail was really one of the foundational rail-to-trail projects in the whole country, and creating that trail actually forced the federal government to sort of create the processes that allowed other places to create similar trails. It was a very foundational trail in itself, which is why it's funny that it's still not finished.
It's true. Can I ask you really quickly, too, because we were talking about SDOT and the future of transportation, can you explain what rail-to-trail is for us?
Yes, so you have all these old rail lines that, for whatever reason, they stopped being useful as rail lines. And the Burke-Gilman Trail is built along such a rail line that the railroad abandons it, and then the question was, what do we do with this right-of-way?
Yes, right.
And some property owners wanted to just, they wanted to own
Flop
it.
a thing, yeah.
And so some neighbors got together and said, hey, we shouldn't, lose this connected corridor.
Yeah.
We need to maintain it as a public good.
Do.
And so they put a trail there so that it had a use and a purpose to maintain a connected thing. And at the time, that was revolutionary.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Listen up, BNSF. We need your rail lines that you're not using. Let's talk about Bicycle Sundays on Lake Washington Boulevard.
Yeah, that was I would say that's sort of the moment that the modern bike movement in Seattle was born, because there were all these people who had been buying bikes and had been riding on their own, and then someone got this idea that, hey, if we just had one day where there weren't cars on Lake Washington Boulevard, then people could come out and they could bike, and kids could bike, and it could be safe.
Yeah.
And they did that. The city was expecting a couple hundred people the first time they tried it.
Yeah.
And 5,000 to 10,000 people showed up.
Whoa!
And they were completely overwhelmed. The only food vendor they had sold out of food before lunchtime.
Yeah.
They ran out of bikes before the event began.
That's great news. So people are ready for this.
Yeah, well, that was 1968. So, and that's...
Oh, I'm sorry. That was 1968.
Yeah, we've been doing Bicycle Sundays on Lake Washington Boulevard for 55 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. So before I let you go, recent improvements in the city and then some of the challenges ahead in Seattle for bicyclists.
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that people will recognize as an improvement is the bike lanes to and through downtown.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes, even since the pandemic happened. So anyone who hasn't been downtown on a bike since the pandemic started,
Yeah.
You should try it because it's amazing. You can bike all the way through downtown without leaving a bike lane now.
Yeah, and second, I mean, there's actual barriers between the cars and the actual bike lanes, these big old planters in most areas, so you even feel safe.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It took a ton of work, a ton of community organizing to get to this point. There's still a lot of work left to do, but every time I ride on it, it's an amazing experience because 10 years ago this just was a dream, and now it's real.
And you look at other cities around the world that really have embraced cycling and how much it's really helped people's quality of life and the city's quality. So, we know it's possible. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for writing this book.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, Tom is holding a book release party tonight, Monday, August 28th at 7 p.m. at the Elliott Bay Book Company. Go check it out.